it goes down to the government's ability to provide education. When you look at class sizes here in Malawi, an average class size has a ratio of 1 teacher to 70 students. So that alone poses a big threat to the professional lives of teachers here in Malawi, because they are given an impossible task of educating a number of students that they can't physically and emotionally be able to provide to. That also translates to lack of resources, because to provide enough resources for a class of 70 students is equally challenging. It results in the lack of other resources that you might need in a class. So such things like emotional support for the students, special needs support for the students. So all those pose a big threat to the teacher's ability to effectively teach young children. If you look at the numbers, for example, in Malawi, there are on paper enough teachers to teach children. But in terms of the delivery of those lessons and the delivery of the curriculum, children are just not getting quality education.
It's sad that teaching is one of the most lowly paid jobs, especially in Nigeria, where I come from. Another risk as a teacher is the risk of professional stagnation. So a lot of times you come into teaching and there isn't much that you can do to grow. You go to courses, you learn a lot, you apply these in your classes, and except if you really plan, to become an administrator, there isn't much else to do. There isn't anywhere else to go upwards. And the older you get, the more difficult it is sometimes to actually just keep up the energy you need for your job. And how many of us as teachers can move up into those limited managerial positions? So there is that risk of just petering out at a point, and you find yourself teaching for 25, 30, 40 years, and then you just retire. And there's nowhere else to go. So a lot of people, because of that, tend to leave the profession early on when they see that there isn't much of a future for them, and they try to do other things. They leave education totally in a lot of the cases. Another risk is the risk of burnout. So teaching is a very, very stressful job. I mean, there's so much on us. We have to deal with the human beings that come into the classroom apart from their cognitive needs. So there's a lot that teachers have to do. And a lot of times, even due to the problem with the financial benefit, we have side jobs. Many of us are tutoring to make ends meet. Then you see yourself having to take papers home to grade and assess. This is towards the end of the term, you're preparing report sheets, you're preparing different administrative reports. That is a lot of work for a human being to take on. So these risks are real, and it's not easy to really think of what can be done. But in my opinion, some of the things that can help is if early on as teachers, we have what we could call maybe professional coaches or career coaches, so that we can try to map out, where we want to go. Do we actually want to aim for those administrative positions, and what are the courses we need to take to get there? And if we don't, what else can we still do to grow while in the education space? Another thing that is really important is the financial help. We don't want handouts. We want comparable pay. And well, we know it's difficult. There's inflation, the finances are limited even for the schools, but what other things can be done? What are the accommodations that can be made for teachers? I mean, if I don't have to worry too much about housing, about health, about the education of my children, we don't need too much money as teachers. A lot of us are passionate, we're willing to stay. Another important thing is taking care of the well-being. What can we do to support each other emotionally? We need to have systems where there are mentors, where the administrators are supportive, where we have a listening ear, so that teachers can go before they actually burn out.
So I think the remuneration of teachers is one of the major reasons why teachers run away from the profession, because when a teacher foresees or sees that the future is bleak or is not open for greater opportunities, then as such teacher we really don't want to continue that profession. Government have to really look at the salaries of teachers, the salaries of educators in general, and see how they can upscale it and make the profession a very attractive one. Create a conducive environment for the teachers, where teachers can, feel at home and feel proud of the profession they find themselves. situation whereby the classroom is looking so tattered, so dirty, so unkept, and the ceilings and walls look like something that have been infested by rodents for series of years, just as the cases of some public schools. And it's not something that will make the teacher to really feel proud of. So if the teacher is not proud of his profession, there's no how that teacher would like to remain there. There's this attitude that some proprietors and some school owners have towards education. Particularly, they see the students as kings and the expenses of the teachers. Of course, students are kings, but teachers are the mothers of the king. So if you don't take care of the mother of the king, you cannot have a king. I also call on the other human rights organizations such as Amnesty International to actually set up a campaign for teachers, globally, and especially for Sub-Saharan Africa. Teachers need to be fought for. They need to be fought for so that their voices will be heard. They have been neglected over decades enough in Sub-Saharan Africa. I think if we have an organization that can fight for teachers and make sure that they are being given the attention and all the benefits that is accrued to them as professionals, then I think it will help to cushion some of these effects of teachers leaving their profession and so on and so forth.
Currently, the Nigerian economy is facing lots of fluctuations, which directly affects enrollment numbers in schools. You have lots of parents pulling out their children from different schools and taking them to other schools that are affordable, and this can lead to financial strains on schools, which then also has an impact on what teachers can earn, and then how much the school can also provide incentives to motivate teachers. As teachers, there's several expectations from us, and sometimes this can be really demanding. Long hours being spent at work, coupled with having to even journey a long distance to work daily. For some of us, we spend hours on the road coming to work in the midst of traffic. It can be really exhausting sometimes. When it comes to the area of economic instability, I believe that as much as possible, organizations should be able to go the extra mile and do their possible best to ensure teacher satisfaction as much as they can. I also believe that there should be more platforms that recognize and reward teachers, who consistently provide high quality education. This will help to motivate teachers further and also encourage a culture of excellence. When it comes to the issue of teacher workload and teacher burnout, I believe that schools should be able to provide technological tools that will help to give teachers ease when it comes to their work, and also provide professional development opportunities where teachers can gain knowledge on technological tools and platforms that will help them on their roles. Schools and organizations should also have wellness programs for teachers from time to time. I believe that these are ways that these risks can be addressed.
One would be a lack of teaching and learning materials in our schools here in Malawi. Most of the schools don't have teaching and learning materials, especially those schools in rural areas. So this is a challenge. Teachers fail to deliver because of lack of teaching and learning materials. And then the behavior of the students also can prevent teachers to deliver. For example, here in Malawi, every time we hear students vandalizing school property, such things, going on strikes, students, that is, such things may prevent teachers from delivering their job well. Another one is also lack of refresher courses and seminars. This is also a challenge that makes teacher not to deliver. For example, here in Malawi, we have had a new syllabus. So teachers were supposed to have seminars to be told how to go about this new curriculum. So some have not gone to be taught how they can go on with this new curricula. The government should provide teaching and learning materials in schools, especially in the rural areas. And here in Malawi, in public schools, there are some public secondary schools that are provided with funding. And so the government can increase this funding since the prices of goods have gone up. The government should also promote teachers. They should also promote teachers from one grade to a higher grade so that the teachers work happily. The charities also should provide some materials, teaching and learning materials in schools. I'm stressing, especially in the rural areas. In most of the schools in rural areas, they don't have computers. Maybe they may say it's because of electricity, but there are some schools which have electricity, but they don't have computers. So these technology providers should also provide computers in schools.
Imagine teaching over 100 students in one classroom. In most schools in low-income communities, there's a large class size. I teach over 300 students the English language, and it is very stressful teaching them, marking their scripts, attending to each one of their needs. It leads to teachers burnout. So we've heard stories of teachers that got bullied by parents, especially parents walking into school to bully teachers because they disciplined their children or did something of that nature. And if they are unsure of their safety while at work, they wouldn't want to stay as educators because no one wants to be in that position where you're being bullied by parents. So most teachers cannot afford what they need as educators. Most of them are not able to even put their own children in very good schools that they would love to. Right now, most teachers teach in school and then they have what they call side hustle. I think that the more teachers go out to look for these side hustles, the more they, divert their interests. And when their interests have been diverted, it won't be long, they will leave the profession. Let teachers be given medical plans so that teachers do not bother about how much they would spend out of their salaries every time we hear the death of teachers because sometimes they're not able to afford medical expenses. It's the provision of laws protecting teachers. Let teachers be sure and assured of their safety while in school and even at home. So when teachers are very sure that parents cannot even walk to school to harass them or bully them, and even if they do, there are repercussions. Let's prioritize our teachers. Let's make teachers' salary very attractive, that a lot of people would want to stay and even come into the sector. Let teachers' salary be reviewed and improved. And I know that when this is done, more teachers will want to stay. And those that have left might reconsider coming back.
Now, there are a lot of teachers who do not even have any other method than their salary, what they earn as teachers. Those ones now tend to have a sense of depression and a sense of unfulfillment at the job because, yes, they might be fulfilled professionally. However, they don't have evidence of this to their family. So financial insecurity is one big issue here. There are teachers in this country that earn less than $20, that earn less than $30. Even when you earn $100, it's still very poor compared to the challenges in the economy. Another problem now stemming from that is life insecurity. You can imagine a teacher who falls sick and wants to take care of himself. Of course, once there is no financial assistance there, the life expectancy is even very poor and very low. So the life is not even well secure with a lot of exposure to several hazards. Many of us will still use chalk in our classroom, and that dust goes into our nose. It causes a lot of lungs problem for us. Your life is not secure, and then the students tend to be a little bit aggressive, especially when you teach in a public school and you try to instill discipline in a different way or in a way that the students do not like. Your life is not safe, then you get bullied, either even by fellow teachers too, who feel that yes, you are high-handed or your approach is just different from theirs. So many teachers are professionally stagnant. The only thing they have in their head now, if it's not even extinct now, is what they learned while they were in school. Now, many teachers now do not even have up-to-date knowledge of what their subject, the theory they are teaching is all about. Vocal stress is one major problem. The stress we go through at home to another. So you can imagine a teacher earning as high as a medical doctor. I think to a very large extent, teachers will tend to concentrate because I can get all the gadgets I need to make my life as a teacher better. The orientation for students is very key. Students need to be told that you don't attack your teachers, especially teenagers who feel they are strong and then they want to do things in different ways. The Gen Zs now attacking the millennials. Yes, I think that's a reality now. So there is a reorientation of students now all the time, letting them to know that you have to just respect your teachers. Let professional development be the next thing to the salary of teachers. Let it be available everywhere. Online, it's free there, it's open there. Back-to-back development. Let's just know that there are wonderful ways of teaching in the 21st century that is different from the way you were taught. Remember, if you deny the students of the 21st century the way they should be taught, you are going to rob them of their own future too. So we need to just let teachers know that yes, technology is taking over now. They need to develop themselves in this particular direction. They also need to know that yes, I need to grow and then be jettisoning old knowledge that I used to carry. I believe if we put all this together, education will be worth it and it will be a sweet journey for any teacher.
I definitely think the lack of respect and trust from society, when significantly educators are some people, not only people but professionals who are helping kids through a time period of their life that is quite hard. And of course, you go to university, you study, you become an expert in this field, and to unfortunately have people in society not understand or underestimate your area of expertise is really disheartening. It would be like me walking into a hospital and trying to tell a doctor how to do a hand or foot surgery. You wouldn't do it because that's their area of expertise. In society, there's been this huge shift between the importance of educators and how we actually treat them. And I think that's a huge thing that can be role modeled to kids when we're talking about what is affecting the lack of educators. It actually gets teachers to question their passion and purpose for being in the education institutions or sectors that they're working within. And of course, if we've got teachers who are actually teaching and have lost that sense of passion and don't feel respected, then of course they're not going to want to be there. And that's not what we want when we're actually educating the future generations, because we're not just educating future kids. We need to step away and look from an outwards lens and think we're also educating future doctors, lawyers, teachers, parents. But more than that, we want to be educating kind, compassionate, empathetic kids who know how to have time management skills, communication techniques, and are just effective in day-to-day life activities. Government needs to be backing teachers, and of course that's where all things start. If we're seeing a shift in the way the government are talking about teachers, seeing a shift in the way that they value education, that would be superb. And I think to actually show that value and appreciation, that looks like investing actually in more research sides of how exactly educational institutes are running. A, are they effective? B, are they meeting students' needs? And C, is the well-being of everyone involved in this institute being heightened? The new wave of educators coming through the system now, we want to be making sure that these institutions and schools, or the private sectors or public sectors, are set up to the best of their ability so that we've got teachers coming in who are keeping their passion, keeping their drive and being supported. And of course, with technology ever evolving and moving forward, which is absolutely amazing. But I think what we need to see there is that technology is being used to enhance the education sector as well. We need to be making sure that what's happening is that it's allowing a platform even for clear communication between students, teachers and home and students, etc. I think when we're investing more technology into schools, we're also setting students up for the future, as technology is something that is here to stay and it's something you will need to know how to use.
We work a lot. We pour our hearts and soul into educating future generations. But yet, that's our compensation for us is so low. The compensation is so low for us that it feels like we are trying to build a castle on a foundation of sand. We are not able to sustain a fulfilling livelihood. Yes, we have the passion to shape young minds. We have that passion to bring up the tomorrow's talents. or tomorrow's individuals. But yet, we don't have that time for ourselves because the pressure in the workplace doesn't give us room for that. We are sacrificing our personal time and our well-being to make sure that the job goes on. We want to grow. We want to evolve. But where is that means? Where is that channel that can be given to us for professional advancement? There is no resources, no training, no mentorship. All this hinder our personal growth, and it brings to question whether our potential to make a profound impact on the future generation is being stunted by the system. The system should be made available more teaching materials, interactive digital tools, vibrant textbooks, diverse range of learning aids. You don't have materials to give you that sense of knowing that, yes, you are teaching and you are impacting the students with adequate knowledge. So there's no curiosity that is piled up in the students. And for you as a teacher, your teaching is not amplified. So if there's job certainty or job security, of course, I'll be ready to give my best as an educator, knowing that, yes, I have that stability, that whatever my career is secured, I can flourish in this place, and I can know that I will improve. Compensation should be made adequate or commensurate with what we are doing. It should be made fair and competitive. It will bring that satisfaction and peace of mind that what you're doing is being noticed and is being taken into cognizance. So for me, if all this can be put in place, only then can we truly unleash the transformative power of education that we as educators carry, thereby crafting a brighter tomorrow for both myself and the eager minds entrusted to my care.
Number of qualified professionals, educators who are leaving the profession is really disturbing. And I would want to specifically speak with my experience in Africa and the Global South, basically. At least if you look at the current UNESCO report, they probably put the teachers that are needed for universal primary and secondary education by 2020 around 44 million. And the large chunk is coming from Africa. I think in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, we require over 15 million teachers, to fill that kind of gap. So the pictures are not very pleasant. The risks that I would say come from the contextual factors and structural issues that those in the profession will continue to face. I mean, an increased burnout, if you look at what's happening now, because the more we have people leaving the profession, what it means is that those who remain are going to have to overwork, especially those that are very qualified. Another thing that I see here, which also is part of the reason, at least for those of us here in Africa and Ghana, don't seem to have that sense of autonomy in terms of student control and in terms of unique curriculum. And now in most places, curriculum is just something that is just pushed down to implementers, and they have to deal with it. A good example is even by way of technology. They've been given policy to supply teachers with laptops so that it will aid in terms of how they facilitate teaching and learning. But the question is that, do they have that requisite training in technology in terms of how to use it? Do they have the confidence in terms of their own sense of efficacy to use this material effectively to improve learning outcomes? And that is something that is going to also escalate the leaders in education. There's much talk about political interference, for example. That sense, they do not have that sense of autonomy any longer. And students now, are very much empowered. It's very good because we are teaching them to be empowered, to be leaders, be the next generation of leaders. But of course, they should also be an avenue where they know that they are under trained. The landscape of education is evolving, and people need to be constantly trained and retrained, tooled and retooled to be able to deliver what they deliver. But especially in our part of the world, that retooling, retraining is not moving at a pace that people would want to. And so in terms of that, when people lose their sense of efficacy in the classroom, they are no longer able to engage students in the way that they want. Because of course the workload is very heavy now because people are leaving and they have heavy workload. That is increasingly going to affect the way they believe in their own confidence in terms of how they deliver. Now we are talking more about engaged learning, learning that will keep the student engaged with the materials in and outside the classroom. And so when you have educated that are experiencing quite frequent burnout, you have educated that have this, whether perceived or not, this sense of loss of autonomy in terms of what they do, when you have educated that have this kind of low self-efficacy in terms of belief in their own confidence of delivering in the classroom, then the rippling effect or the carryover effect is, poor learning outcomes. So because of this overload and because of the mass exodus of teachers, those who remain, most especially in Africa, in the rural areas, most of them are not qualified. And so they do not even know how to appropriately facilitate teaching and learning. And what it means is that the students are left on their own. It affects the quality of learning that students are now getting these days. And that child of mine who I expect to be the medical doctor in the next year, to be a biochemist, to be a teacher, to be a leader of a school, and so on and so forth, is going to be going to have his or her future very, very bleak. And so we have a very serious impact in the next generation of teachers, in the next generation of doctors, in the generation of engineers. And the science is what we are beginning to see. Now we see a lot of problem behaviors in our environment these days. The budgetary allocation for education keeps dwindling. And so it goes without saying that governments need to pay more attention to education. They need to ensure that it is one of the most critical areas of human development and human flourishing, which means that they need to commit more resources to it. And when it comes to Africa, I think it's not that straightforward. It's a very complex thing. It's a very complex thing because despite the meager resources that African governments are able to raise internally, those that come from outside, they come with a lot of conditionalities, and so it puts a lot of pressure on government in terms of how much government can even increase teachers' pay, how much government can pay for other fringe benefits that teachers will enjoy, and so on and so forth. So they have a lot to do, but I think that international community and the donor agencies have a lot to do, especially when they are thinking about some of the conditionalities as a way to give loans and to give grants to governments at the global within the Global South sub-region. I think they should be aware that at least COVID has taught us that what affects China, what affects Ghana, affects everybody globally. So it is not enough to give conditionalities. You need to think through some of these things when you are doing this, so the government can have the free hand to also operate and to recruit more and to enhance people and to provide infrastructure, basically, very important in terms of the resources for teaching and learning. And that is where I see the tech giants and the tech companies also coming in here. We should also be interested in building capacity, in training people to have the required competencies to be able to use whatever gadgets that we provide them, whatever software, whatever teaching and learning resource that we provide them, so that it will have the impact that it deserves, so that we can move from good intentions to action and impact. We need to build technology with the people that are going to use it. How do we ensure that the indigenous songs, the indigenous knowledges are also built into the kind of application system that we give to teachers to go out there to use to facilitate their teaching and learning? We need to sit down with them and build with them. And when we build with the communities, when we talk with them and think along with them, so that these edtech giants will build resources that would suit their context, I think they can begin to also own this technology. And when they own them, then we know what happens. They can use the technology with ease, and that is also going to improve student learning outcomes.